The council chamber was silent. Ambassador Chen stood before the gathered alien representatives, her face pale but her voice steady. 2 hours ago, the colony world of New Harmony had sent its last transmission before communications went dark. The message had been brief and terrifying. They were under attack. The Krillian Empire had made a mistake. They had looked at humanity's short time in the galactic community and seen weakness. They had watched human diplomats negotiate trade deals and cultural exchanges, always polite, always seeking peace. The Krillians had decided that humans were soft. Commander Thex of the Krillian Third Fleet stood on the bridge of his warship, orbiting the human colony below. He watched the screens showing his troops moving through the settlements. 10,000 warriors, the pride of the Empire, had landed on New Harmony 6 hours ago. The human colonists had tried to resist at first, but they were farmers and teachers, not soldiers. Now they huddled in shelters while Krillian forces secured the planet. "This will send a message to the galaxy," Thex said to his second-in-command. "Humanity may have technology, but they lack the warrior spirit. When they see how easily we took this world, they will know their place." Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Chen finished explaining the situation. The other species murmured among themselves. The Vrax representative, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish with tentacles, spoke through its translator. "Ambassador Chen, the Krillians have 10,000 soldiers on your colony. How many troops will Earth send to respond?" Chen looked at the alien representatives. She knew what they were thinking. Most galactic military operations involved massive fleets and armies. When the Vrax had fought the Torgathi 2 centuries ago, they had sent 500,000 soldiers. That was how wars were fought in the galaxy. "We are deploying our special forces," Chen said quietly. The council chamber erupted in confused chatter. The Selenite ambassador, a crystalline being that communicated through light patterns, flashed a question. "What are special forces?" "All military forces are special to their creators." "What makes yours different?" Chen hesitated. How could she explain? The galaxy had never seen anything like Earth's special forces. They had no reference point. "They are highly trained small team," she finally said. "Specialists in unconventional warfare." The Vrax representative made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Small teams? Ambassador, forgive our confusion, but the Krillians have conquered your world with 10,000 warriors. How many of these specialists are you sending?" 72, Chen replied. The council chamber fell silent. Then the laughter began. Not cruel laughter, but the kind that comes from genuine disbelief. The Selenites' lights flickered, and what humans had learned was their version of amusement. Even the normally serious Drath ambassador, a reptilian species known for their military traditions, made a hissing sound that indicated confusion. "Ambassador Chen," the Drath said slowly, "surely you mean 72,000? No, 72 operators, 12 teams of 6. Commander Thex received the intercepted transmission 3 hours later. His communications officer had been monitoring human military channels, and what they found made Thex call his senior staff to the command center. "Look at this," he said, displaying the intercepted data on the main screen. "The humans are sending ships. Small ships. Our intelligence counts only 12 dropships entering the system." His tactical officer studied the data. "Lord Commander, those ships are not carrying troops. At least not many. Each vessel seems designed for rapid insertion of small teams. Perhaps scouts." "Scouts?" Thex laughed. "They send scouts to face our army. This is better than I hoped. We will capture these humans and parade them before the galaxy. Let everyone see how weak Earth truly is." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to all ground commanders. Human forces are inbound. 12 small teams. They are to be captured alive if possible. I want to interrogate them personally." The Krillian ground forces prepared. They set up sensor networks around their positions. They doubled guards at key locations. They readied their weapons and waited for the human dropships to land. The ships came at nightfall. New Harmony had a 26-hour day cycle, and the Krillians had adjusted their schedules to maintain constant alertness. Their sensors tracked the human ships as they descended through the atmosphere. Then something strange happened. The ships disappeared from sensors. One moment they were there, dropping through the clouds, and the next moment they were gone. Not destroyed, just gone. The sensor return simply stopped. Electromagnetic countermeasures, the Krillian sensor operator reported. Very sophisticated. But we have visual tracking stations. We will see where they land. The visual stations reported nothing. The human ships had vanished completely. No engine trails, no heat signatures, nothing. It was as if they had never existed. Commander Thex frowned. This was unexpected. Human technology was known to be advanced, but this level of stealth was concerning. He opened a channel to all ground forces. All units maintain heightened alert. The humans have landed somewhere on the planet. They cannot hide forever. Find them. In the council chamber, the alien representatives had gathered to watch. The Galactic Council had military observers stationed around New Harmony, far enough to avoid the conflict but close enough to monitor. They had agreed to allow humanity to handle the situation, but they wanted to see how these special forces would perform. Ambassador Chen stood to one side, watching the screens that showed sensor data from the orbital observers. She looked calm, but inside she felt the weight of what was about to happen. Earth had been part of the galactic community for only 2 years. This would be the first time other species saw what humanity was truly capable of. A Vrax military analyst was providing commentary for the council. The human ships have successfully evaded detection during landing. This is impressive stealth technology. However, 72 soldiers against 10,000 is still an impossible situation. The question is not if the Krillians will win, but how quickly. Chen said nothing. She simply watched the screens and waited. On New Harmony, the night deepened. Krillian sentries stood at their posts, weapons ready. They had thermal sensors, motion detectors, and regular patrols. Every approach to their positions was covered. Every possible landing zone was monitored. The first sentry disappeared at 23:47 hours local time. One moment he was there, checking his sector. The next moment, his signal went dead. His partner, stationed 50 meters away, immediately reported it. "Command, we have lost contact with Sentry Post 12. Investigating now." The partner moved to investigate. He found nothing. No body, no sign of struggle, no evidence of what had happened. It was as if his fellow soldier had simply ceased to exist. "Command, this is Sentry Post 12 Beta. Something is wrong here. I am returning to..." His transmission cut off. Commander Thex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In the last 10 minutes, 6 sentry posts had gone silent, all on the perimeter of his main base. No shots fired, no alarms, just silence. "Send a patrol," he ordered. "Full squad, heavy weapons. Find out what is happening." The patrol moved out, 12 Krillian warriors in full combat armor. They reached the location of the first missing sentry and found his equipment lying on the ground. His weapon was undamaged. His armor was empty. Then the darkness around them came alive. The patrol leader's name was Grath. He had fought in 7 campaigns for the Krillian Empire and earned 3 medals for bravery. He was not a soldier who scared easily, but as he stood in the darkness of New Harmony surrounded by his squad, he felt something he had never experienced in combat before. He felt hunted. "Spread out," he ordered. "Standard search formation. Weapons hot." The squad moved carefully through the area where the sentries had disappeared. Their thermal scanners showed nothing. Their motion detectors were silent. Yet Grath could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Sir," one of his soldiers called out. "I found something." Grath moved to the soldier's position. On the ground was a small device no bigger than his palm. It was dark green and had a blinking red light. The explosion was not large. It did not kill anyone. But it was bright, incredibly bright, and the sound was deafening. Grath's squad staggered, their vision filled with white light, their ears ringing. Their advanced helmets had protected them from permanent damage, but for crucial seconds they were blind and deaf. In those seconds, 4 of Grath's soldiers went down. Not dead, but unconscious. Grath's vision cleared enough to see shapes moving in the darkness. Fast shapes, impossibly fast. He tried to raise his weapon, but something hit his arm with tremendous force. His weapon fell. He reached for his sidearm, but a figure appeared in front of him. It was a human, smaller than Grath, covered in equipment that seemed to blend with the shadows. The human moved with a speed that should not have been possible, and before Grath could react, he felt a sharp pain in his neck. Then darkness took him. When Grath woke, he was lying on the ground with his hands secured. His squad was around him, all alive but restrained. Their weapons were gone. Their communication devices were gone, and they were alone. A small device near Grath's head activated. A voice spoke in perfect Krillian. "Return to your base. Tell your commander to leave this world. You have 12 hours. This is your only warning." Then silence. Grath and his squad were released from their restraints by remote. They stumbled back to their base, carrying their unconscious comrades, trying to understand what had happened. Commander Thex listened to Grath's report with growing anger. This was not how warfare was conducted. In every conflict the Krillian Empire had fought, enemies met on the battlefield. They fought with honor. They announced their presence. This was something different. "Show me the patrol's helmet camera footage," Thex demanded. The technician brought up the recordings. They showed the explosion, the confusion, and then brief glimpses of the humans. The footage was distorted, as if the humans had some way of interfering with the cameras. But what Thex could see disturbed him. The humans moved like nothing he had seen before. They did not charge into battle. They flowed through the darkness like water, using every shadow, every piece of cover. They struck with precision and then vanished. And most disturbing of all, they had captured his entire patrol without killing a single soldier. "They want us to be afraid," Thex said. "This is a psychological tactic. We will not fall for it. Double all patrols, increase sensor coverage, and shoot anything that moves." But doubling the patrols only made things worse. Over the next 3 hours, the Krillian forces began to fall apart from the inside. Supply depots exploded, their guards swearing they had seen nothing. Communication channels were hijacked. Krillian commanders found themselves giving orders they had never actually given. At 0400 hours, the main command post lost power for 30 seconds. When it came back on, they discovered that someone had been inside. Nothing was destroyed, but files had been accessed. Maps had been photographed. And on Commander Thex's personal display screen was a message in Krillian. "We know where everything is. Leave now." Thex slammed his fist on the console. "Find them. I want every soldier searching. Use thermal imaging, sound detection, everything we have." But the humans were always one step ahead. A patrol would report movement in Sector 7, and while forces rushed there, an explosion would occur in Sector 12. Thermal sensors would pick up heat signatures, but when troops arrived, they found only burning flares. Sound detectors would register footsteps, but the sources were recorded sounds played from hidden devices. The Krillian soldiers began to break. These were professional warriors, but they had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that could be anywhere. An enemy that struck without warning and disappeared like ghosts. An enemy that seemed to know everything about them while they knew nothing in return. In orbit, the Galactic Council observers watched in stunned silence. The Vrax military analyst who had been providing commentary had stopped talking an hour ago. He simply stared at the data coming from the planet's surface. "This is not possible," the Drath military observer finally said. 72 soldiers are systematically dismantling a force of 10,000. "How?" Ambassador Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Because special forces are not trained to fight fair. They are trained to win." On the surface, Task Force Phantom was executing their mission with surgical precision. Team 1 had taken control of the Krillian communication network. Team 2 was destroying supply lines. Team 3 was conducting psychological operations. Team 4 was gathering intelligence. Team 5 was preparing for the next phase. Team 6 was providing overwatch and coordination. Captain Sarah Mitchell led Team 1. She sat in a hidden position 2 kilometers from the main Krillian base, her equipment linked into their communication system. Every order the Krillians sent, she heard. Every report they filed, she read. And occasionally she sent her own messages, carefully crafted to sound like legitimate Krillian communications. "Command, this is Patrol 7. We have contact in Sector 9. There was no Patrol 7. But the Krillians did not know that. They sent 3 squads to Sector 9, weakening their defenses elsewhere. Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez led Team 2. His specialty was demolitions, but not the crude kind. Marcus could make explosives do exactly what he wanted, when he wanted. A supply depot did not just explode. It exploded in a way that created maximum fear with minimum casualties. A bridge did not collapse. It became unstable, forcing the Krillians to waste time and resources checking every other bridge on the planet. Lieutenant James Chen commanded Team 3. His background was in psychological operations, and he understood something important. Fear was more effective than bullets. His team did not kill soldiers. They made soldiers afraid to be soldiers. Motion sensors triggered in empty buildings. Sounds of movement came from places where nothing was there. And always the Krillians felt like they were being watched. By dawn, the Krillian force on New Harmony was combat ineffective. Not because they had been destroyed, but because they were paralyzed by fear and confusion. Commander Thek sat in his command post, surrounded by reports of disaster, and realized that his invasion had failed. He had not been defeated in battle. He had been defeated without ever seeing his enemy clearly. The transmission came at 600 hours. It was broadcast on all Krillian frequencies in perfect Krillian, with the voice of someone who was very calm and very confident. Commander Thex, you have 6 hours remaining to withdraw your forces from New Harmony. If you do not leave, we will transition from covert operations to direct action. You have seen what 12 teams can do in the shadows. You do not want to see what we can do in the light. Choose wisely. Thex looked at his tactical displays. 3,000 of his soldiers were injured, frightened, or simply refusing to leave their positions. His supply lines were cut. His communications were compromised. His commanders were making decisions based on fear rather than strategy, and he had only seen glimpses of the humans. 72 operators had done this. 72. He reached for his communication console, about to give the order to withdraw, when a new message appeared on his screen. It was from the Krillian High Command. Reinforcements were coming. 50,000 more soldiers. The Empire would not accept this humiliation. Thex read the message and felt something he had never felt before as a Krillian commander. He felt pity for the reinforcements. They had no idea what they were flying into. On the surface, in a dozen hidden positions across New Harmony, human operators received word of the incoming Krillian reinforcements. Captain Mitchell read the intelligence report and smiled. "Gentlemen," she said over the encrypted team channel, "we have new orders. Time to go loud." The observation station orbiting New Harmony was designed to monitor conflicts without interfering. Representatives from 6 different galactic species sat in the analysis room, watching data streams from the planet below. What they were seeing challenged everything they understood about warfare. General Krath of the Drath Confederacy had spent 40 years studying military tactics. He had fought in 3 wars and taught strategy at the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy. He leaned forward in his seat, his reptilian eyes fixed on the screen showing thermal and electromagnetic data from New Harmony. "Play back the last engagement," he said to the technician. "Slow it down to 1/10 speed." The recording showed a Krillian patrol of 15 soldiers moving through a settlement. The thermal imaging suddenly showed 6 heat signatures appearing from positions that should have been empty. The humans moved with coordinated precision, each one targeting specific Krillians. In 3 seconds, the entire patrol was down. Not dead, the medical scanners confirmed, but unconscious. Then the human heat signatures vanished again. "How did they hide their thermal signatures?" asked scientist Vrel, a selenite observer. Her crystalline body flickered with confused light patterns. "They did not hide them," General Krath replied. "They masked them with the environment. Look here." He pointed to the data. Before they appeared, those positions showed normal background heat. The humans were there the entire time, but they had cooled their suit systems to match the ambient temperature. They were uncomfortable, probably cold, but invisible to thermal sensors. The Vrak's military analyst made a sound of disbelief. "That level of discipline is remarkable. To remain motionless in one position, uncomfortable for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That is not the remarkable part," General Krath said quietly. "Watch what happens next." The recording continued. The humans secured the Krillian soldiers, took their weapons and communication devices, and then split into 3 pairs. Each pair moved in a different direction. Within minutes, they had struck 3 more targets simultaneously. "They are operating with complete independence," Krath explained. Each pair within each team can make decisions without waiting for orders. They trust each other completely. This level of small unit autonomy is unknown in galactic militaries. Ambassador Chen had been invited to the observation station. She stood at the back of the room, watching the alien military experts analyze the operation. A young Drath officer approached her. "Ambassador, may I ask a question?" "Of course." "How long does it take to train one of these special forces operators?" Chen considered the question. "The minimum is usually 2 years of intensive training after they have already completed basic military service. But most operators train for 5 years or more. Some specialize for a decade." The Drath officer's eyes widened. "A decade? To train a single soldier?" "They are not just soldiers," Chen replied. They are linguists, medics, engineers, tacticians, and psychologists. They can adapt to any situation, use any weapon, survive in any environment. Each operator represents thousands of hours of training and millions of credits of investment. General Krath had been listening. This explains much. Ambassador, in the Drath Confederacy, we train soldiers for 6 months. Other species train for similar periods. We believe this was sufficient because we teach them to follow orders and execute set tactics. But humans train their soldiers to think. Not all our soldiers, Chen corrected. Special forces are selected from the best of our military. Only about 5% of applicants complete the training. We take the smartest, most adaptable, most resilient individuals and then push them beyond normal limits. On the planet below, the human teams were preparing for the next phase. 3 more Special Forces teams had arrived, designated Task Force Reaper. These teams specialized in direct action rather than covert operations. Captain Mitchell contacted the new teams. Reaper Actual, this is Phantom Lead. Target package is ready. Krillian forces are demoralized and scattered. Reinforcements inbound in 4 hours. Copy that, Phantom Lead. Reaper teams are moving into position. We will demonstrate what happens when ghosts become demons. Commander Thex had regrouped his forces into defensive positions around the main base. He had pulled in all outlying patrols. His soldiers were fortified, weapons ready, sensors on maximum sensitivity. He would not be caught off guard again. The attacks came at dawn and they came from everywhere at once. The difference was that this time the humans were not hiding. They struck with devastating speed and overwhelming force, but still in small teams. It was unlike anything in Krillian military doctrine. Team 7 approached a Krillian strongpoint that held 200 soldiers. The strongpoint was well fortified with heavy weapons and clear fields of fire. In traditional galactic warfare, such a position would require at least 1,000 attackers to overcome. 6 human operators attacked it. They did not charge. They used the terrain, moving through a drainage system the Krillians had not thought to guard. They emerged inside the perimeter, immediately throwing devices that released thick smoke. In the confusion, they moved through the strongpoint with practiced efficiency. But they were not simply killing. The humans used non-lethal weapons wherever possible. Stunners, flashbangs, neural disruptors. Krillian soldiers fell unconscious, not dead. The humans would pause to render medical aid, injecting unconscious soldiers with stabilizing drugs before moving to the next target. In 15 minutes, the strongpoint was neutralized. Of 200 Krillian soldiers, 180 were unconscious but alive. 20 had fled. 0 had died. The 6 human operators had 2 minor injuries. This pattern repeated across the battlefield. Human teams struck hard and fast, using a combination of stealth, speed, and overwhelming violence of action, but they also showed restraint. They distinguished between soldiers who were fighting and soldiers who were surrendering. They provided medical care. They followed rules of engagement even in the chaos of battle. General Krath watched all of this and understood something profound. They are not trying to kill the Krillians. They are trying to break their will to fight. The Selenite scientist flickered in agreement. It is more effective than killing. A dead soldier is gone, but a defeated soldier spreads fear to others. The humans understand psychological warfare at a level we never considered. The Vrax analyst pulled up historical data. I have been reviewing Earth's military history. What we are seeing is the result of thousands of years of warfare evolution. Humans fought each other continuously, developing tactics and counter-tactics. Every advantage was met with a counter-advantage. They refined warfare into a science and an art, General Krath added. Look at how they move. It is not just training. It is creativity. Each team adapts to the situation in real time. They improvise. They use the enemy's own infrastructure against them. On screen, a human team had hacked into a Krillian automated defense turret and reprogrammed it to target other Krillian positions. Another team was using captured Krillian equipment to create false sensor readings. A third team had taken over a Krillian medical station and was treating wounded from both sides. They are using everything as a weapon, the Drath officer observed. Technology, psychology, even mercy. Every action serves multiple purposes. Ambassador Chen nodded. That is what we call full-spectrum warfare. Special forces do not think in terms of conventional battle. They think in terms of achieving objectives through any means necessary. The Krillian reinforcements arrived in 4 massive transport ships. 50,000 fresh soldiers fully equipped and eager to restore their empire's honor. Commander Thex watched them land and felt a moment of relief. Surely this many warriors could overwhelm 72 humans. The human operators watched the reinforcements land and made their calculations. Captain Mitchell coordinated with all 9 teams now on the planet. All teams, we are now facing 60,000 hostiles. New rules of engagement. We go for infrastructure, not soldiers. Break their ability to coordinate, supply, and maneuver. Make them see that numbers do not matter. What happened over the next 6 hours would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. 9 human teams, 54 operators systematically dismantled an invasion force of 60,000 soldiers. They destroyed landing pads, stranding the reinforcements on the ground. They hacked communications, creating chaos in the command structure. They sabotaged vehicles, turning the Krillian mechanized advantage into a logistical nightmare. They struck supply depots, forcing the Krillians to ration food and ammunition. And through it all, they moved like shadows. A team would strike in the north, and when Krillian forces rushed there, attacks would come from the south and east simultaneously. The Krillians could never pin down their enemy. They were always reacting, never acting. General Krath stood from his seat in the observation station. I need to speak with the Galactic Council immediately. They need to understand what we are witnessing. An hour later, the Council convened an emergency session. General Krath presented his analysis. Esteemed representatives, we have observed something unprecedented. Human special forces represent a new paradigm in warfare. They combine technology, tactics, psychology, and adaptability in ways we never imagined. The Krillian High Command made their decision at dawn on the 3rd day. They would not withdraw. The Empire had committed too much to this invasion. To leave now would be seen as weakness across the galaxy. They sent orders to Commander Thex. Hold position, eliminate the human operators at any cost. Thex read the orders and closed his eyes. His superiors did not understand. They were not here. They had not felt the presence of these humans who moved like death through the darkness. They had not seen their own soldiers, brave warriors of the Empire, reduced to terrified beings jumping at shadows. But orders were orders. Thex called his senior officers together. The High Command wants us to hunt these humans. Very well, we will hunt them. Gather every sensor we have. Deploy every drone. I want constant aerial surveillance. I want patrols moving in groups of at least 50. I want heavy weapons at every position. If the humans want a real fight, we will give them one. Captain Sarah Mitchell sat in a concealed observation post 3 kilometers from the main Krillian base. Her team had been monitoring Krillian communications all night. She heard Thex's orders and allowed herself a thin smile. Reaper actual Phantom lead. They are changing tactics, moving to aggressive patrols with heavy weapons. They think numbers and firepower will help. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Stone commanded all Special Forces teams on New Harmony. His voice came through the encrypted channel, calm and measured. Copy that, Phantom lead. Time to show them why we train for every scenario. All teams prepare for direct engagement protocols. Remember, we are still trying to minimize casualties. These are soldiers following orders, not war criminals. Understood, sir. Rules of engagement remain in effect. What the Krillians did not understand was that human special forces trained for every type of combat. Covert infiltration was just one skill set. They were equally capable of direct action, hostage rescue, close quarters battle, and conventional warfare. They had been operating in stealth mode because it was the most efficient approach. But they could switch to open combat instantly. Sergeant James Walker led Team 8, which specialized in close quarters combat. His team had positioned themselves near a Krillian patrol route. 50 Krillian soldiers were moving through the area, heavily armed and watching for threats. Team 8, we have 50 hostiles approaching your position, came the voice from Overwatch. They're spread out, good discipline, heavy weapons in the center. Walker studied the terrain. The Krillians were moving through a narrow valley between 2 hills. Classic ambush position, but his team was not going to ambush them in the traditional sense. Team, listen up. We go loud, but we go smart. Flashbangs on my mark. Target weapons first, soldiers second. Non-lethal where possible. Remember, these are scared kids following bad orders. Let's send them home to their families. The team moved into position. 4 operators on the high ground, 2 in the valley. When the Krillian patrol entered the kill zone, Walker gave the signal. The flashbangs detonated in the center of the Krillian formation, causing instant confusion. but the humans were already moving. They did not spray bullets wildly. Each shot was aimed, each target chosen. Weapons were destroyed. Command and control soldiers were stunned. Heavy weapon operators were incapacitated with non-lethal rounds. The Krillians tried to respond, but their formation had been shattered in seconds. They were trained for linear warfare, where two armies faced each other. They were not ready for an enemy that attacked from 3 dimensions at once, that moved during the attack, that seemed to know exactly where every target was. In 90 seconds, the engagement was over. 43 Krillian soldiers were unconscious or wounded. 7 had fled. 0 were dead. Team 8 had used precisely 37 rounds of ammunition and 6 flashbangs. 2 operators had minor injuries from ricochets. Walker moved through the battlefield, his team providing medical aid to the wounded Krillians. He knelt beside a young soldier who was conscious but stunned. "You're going to be okay," Walker said in halting Krillian. "We are not here to kill you. We are here to end this invasion." The young Krillian stared at him with wide eyes. "Why did you not kill us? We are your enemies." Walker checked the soldier's injuries and applied a bandage. "You are soldiers following orders. That does not make you evil. When you go home, remember this moment. Remember that there is honor in showing mercy." This scene repeated across the battlefield. Human teams engaged Krillian forces with overwhelming skill and firepower, but always with restraint. They fought with a level of precision that seemed impossible, and after every engagement they provided medical care to the wounded. In the observation station, the alien military experts watched in stunned silence. The Selenite scientists' lights flickered with confusion. "This makes no tactical sense. Why do they heal the soldiers they just defeated?" General Krath understood. "Because they are thinking 3 steps ahead. Every Krillian soldier who receives medical care from a human will tell that story. Every soldier who was shown mercy when they expected death will question this war. The humans are not just fighting soldiers. They are fighting the will to wage war itself." Commander Thex received reports throughout the day. Every patrol sent out was defeated. Not annihilated, but systematically dismantled. His soldiers returned wounded, traumatized, but alive. And every single one told the same story. The humans were impossibly skilled, impossibly fast, and impossibly merciful. That last part disturbed Thex more than anything. "In Krillian culture, you killed your enemies. That was war. But these humans defeated you, rendered aid, and sent you back to your base." It was a level of psychological warfare that Thex had no defense against. One of his soldiers, a veteran warrior named Krell, requested a private meeting. Thex agreed, and Krell entered his office looking shaken. "Commander, I need to report something. My patrol encountered a human team 6 hours ago. We were defeated in seconds. I was wounded. One of the humans treated my injury. He spoke our language. He told me his name was Marcus. He said he had a son my age back on Earth." Thex waited. Krell continued, his voice uncertain. "Commander, he showed me a picture. His son, his family. He told me about them while he bandaged my wounds." "Why would he do that? Why would he humanize himself to his enemy?" "To break your spirit," Thex replied. "To make you see him as a person instead of a target." "It worked," Krell said quietly. "I do not want to fight anymore. None of us do. These humans are not monsters. They are just soldiers like us. But they are so much better at this than we are. How can we win?" Thex had no answer. That evening, the Krillian High Command sent a new order. They had captured a human scout ship in another system. They had interrogated the crew. They now knew more about human tactics and wanted Thex to capture a Special Forces operator for interrogation. Thex implemented a new strategy. His forces would focus on one human team and surround them with overwhelming numbers. 500 soldiers against 6 humans. Surely they could capture at least one. The operation began at midnight. Intelligence indicated that a human team was operating in the northern sector. Thex sent 500 of his best soldiers equipped with non-lethal capture weapons, with orders to surround and capture the humans alive. The trap was well planned. The Krillians moved quietly, using their own stealth technology. They surrounded the suspected human position and closed in from all sides. When they arrived at the location, they found it empty. The humans had been there hours ago but had moved on. "Phantom Lead, this is Overwatch. They tried to trap Team 4, the trap is empty." "Copy that, Overwatch." "Team 4, what is your actual position?" "We are 3 kilometers south, Phantom Lead. We saw them coming and relocated. They are not bad at stealth, but we are better. But one human team had not relocated. Team 9, led by Captain Alex Reeves, had deliberately allowed themselves to be captured. It was a calculated risk, authorized by Lieutenant Colonel Stone. They wanted to see what the Krillians would do with prisoners. Reeves and his team surrendered without resistance when the Krillians surrounded them. The Krillian soldiers, surprised that the humans gave up so easily, secured them and transported them to the main base. Commander Thex was informed immediately. Reeves was brought to an interrogation room. His team was held in a secure area, under guard but treated according to military protocol. The Krillians might be many things, but they followed the galactic conventions on prisoners of war. Thex entered the interrogation room and studied the human. Reeves was smaller than many Krillians, but there was something in his eyes that made Thex uneasy. A calmness, a confidence. This was not a defeated soldier. I am Commander Thex of the Krillian 3rd Fleet. You will answer my questions. Captain Alex Reeves, United Earth Special Forces, serial number 2847-6639 Alpha. That is all I am required to tell you under the Galactic Convention on Warfare. Thex sat down across from Reeves. I do not need to torture you for information, Captain. I simply want to understand, how do so few of you defeat so many of us? Reeves considered the question. He was bound but not uncomfortable. The Krillians had treated him correctly so far. May I ask you a question first, Commander? Proceed. Why did you invade New Harmony? Thex frowned. Because we believed humans were weak. Because we thought you would be easy to conquer. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The situation on New Harmony had escalated beyond a simple territorial dispute. Multiple species were now demanding answers. Some wanted to know if humanity posed a threat to galactic peace. Others wanted to hire human special forces for their own conflicts. A few species were quietly beginning military research into how to counter human tactics. Ambassador Chen stood before the council, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes upon her. Some were curious, some were afraid, some were angry. The Vrax Grand Counselor spoke first. Ambassador Chen, the Krillian Empire has formally protested to this council. They claim that human tactics are dishonorable, that your soldiers fight without honor, and that this kind of warfare is dangerous to galactic stability. Chen kept her voice calm. The Krillian Empire invaded a peaceful human colony without provocation. Our response has been measured and proportionate. We have avoided casualties wherever possible. How is defending our people dishonorable? The Drath representative raised a clawed hand. No one questions your right to defend your colony, Ambassador. But the methods your special forces use are unlike anything in galactic military history. Some species are concerned that humanity has weaponized concepts we did not know could be weaponized. Psychology, mercy, even information itself. A ripple of agreement went through the council chamber. Chen looked around at the assembled representatives and made a decision. Honored delegates, I understand your concerns. What you have witnessed on New Harmony is only one application of Special Forces capabilities. You have seen them in combat, but that is not their primary purpose. If the Council agrees, I would like to demonstrate what Special Forces are truly meant to do. The Selenite ambassador's lights flickered with interest. What do you propose? There are 3 ongoing crises in Council space right now. A hostage situation on the Markev station, a natural disaster on the colony world of Trellis Prime, and a pirate siege affecting trade routes in the outer sectors. Allow human special forces to respond to these situations. Judge us not by how we fight, but by how we save lives. The council debated for 6 hours. Finally, they agreed. Humanity would be allowed to deploy special forces to handle all 3 crises. The entire galaxy would watch. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Stone received the orders while still coordinating operations on New Harmony. He read them twice, then called his senior officers together. Gentlemen, we have a new mission. Actually, 3 new missions. We are going to show the galaxy what we are really about. Captain Mitchell, your team takes Markev Station. Major Chen, you get Trellis Prime. Commander Hayes, the pirate situation is yours. You have teams en route already. Coordinate with local authorities, but remember, we are guests here. Be professional, be effective, and show them why Special Forces exist. On New Harmony, the situation had reached a stalemate. The Krillians held their main base. Human teams controlled everything else. No one was dying, but no one was winning either. Commander Thex sat in his command center reviewing reports. when an encrypted transmission came through. It was from Captain Reeves, still a prisoner but somehow able to send secure communications. Commander Thex, this is Captain Reeves. I have been authorized to make you an offer. Human Special Forces are being withdrawn from New Harmony. Not because you defeated us, but because we are needed elsewhere. We are going to help people instead of fighting. You can claim victory if you want. Tell your superiors that you drove us off, or you can tell them the truth, that this war is pointless and expensive. Either way, we are leaving. What you do next is up to you. Thex stared at the message. He called his senior staff together and showed them the communication. His second-in-command spoke first. Sir, if the humans are leaving, we can secure the colony. We can claim victory. At what cost? Thex replied. We have 60,000 soldiers on this planet. 3,000 are wounded. Our supplies are depleted. Our communications are compromised. Our soldiers are demoralized. And we have lost only 12 soldiers killed in 3 days of combat. 12. Do you know how many humans have died? 0, not 1. They have systematically dismantled our invasion force without killing anyone unless they absolutely had to. What kind of victory is that? The room was silent. Finally, Thex made his decision. Send a message to Krillian High Command. I am recommending immediate withdrawal from New Harmony. This invasion was a mistake from the beginning. We attacked a peaceful colony and made enemies of the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy. We should count ourselves lucky that they showed mercy. On Markev Station, Captain Sarah Mitchell and her team arrived to find a situation that had been going on for 18 hours. A group of radical activists had taken 32 hostages in the station's main trade center. They were demanding political changes from the station's governing body. Local security forces had the area surrounded but were afraid to move in, fearing hostage casualties. Mitchell studied the situation carefully. Her team had trained for hostage rescue hundreds of times. But this was different. They were not on Earth. These were alien hostages, alien terrorists, and alien politics. Remember, she told her team, we are not here to judge the politics. We are here to get hostages out alive. Be smart, be fast, be precise. The team spent 2 hours gathering intelligence. They talked to station security, reviewed building plans, and monitored communications. Then they acted. The entry was textbook perfect. Team 1 breached from 3 points simultaneously. Flashbangs disoriented the hostage takers. Each operator moved to their assigned target. In 17 seconds, all 6 hostage takers were secured, unconscious but alive. 0 hostages were injured. 0 station personnel were injured. The station's governing council watched the operation through security cameras. The Markev station director, a being from the four-armed Quillith species, spoke to the council afterwards. I have never seen such precision. They moved like a single organism. They knew where every hostage was, where every threat was, and they resolved the situation with no deaths. This is remarkable. The recording of the operation was broadcast across the galaxy. Military experts analyzed every second. The consensus was clear. Human Special Forces had capabilities no other species possessed. On Trellis Prime, Major David Chen faced a very different challenge. A massive earthquake had devastated a city of 200,000 people. Buildings had collapsed. Power was out. Medical facilities were overwhelmed. Local authorities were doing their best, but they needed help. Chen's team was not just soldiers. They were trained in emergency medicine, engineering, search and rescue, and disaster coordination. They landed on Trellis Prime and immediately began organizing the relief effort. Team Alpha, coordinate with local medical services. Get triage stations set up. Team Bravo, we need structural engineers assessing buildings for stability. Team Charlie, search and rescue. Find survivors. Team Delta, work with local authorities on logistics. We need food, water, and shelter for survivors. For 72 hours, the Special Forces teams worked without rest. They pulled survivors from collapsed buildings. They set up field hospitals. They coordinated supply deliveries. They trained local responders in advanced rescue techniques. By the end of the 3rd day, 2,000 additional lives had been saved beyond what local authorities could have managed alone. Major Chen stood in the ruins of the city, exhausted but satisfied. A local official, a small reptilian being, approached him. Major Chen, our people are calling you the angels from Earth. You came to help, not to fight. Why do they call your team Special Forces if this is what you do? Chen smiled tiredly. Because force is not just about violence. Force is about achieving objectives. Sometimes that means fighting. Sometimes that means healing. We are special because we can do both. In the outer sectors, Commander Patricia Hayes dealt with the pirate problem. For 6 months, a well-organized pirate fleet had been attacking trade ships in a critical shipping lane. The pirates were smart, always moving, never staying in one place long enough for local security forces to respond. Hayes approached the problem like a military operation. Her team tracked the pirates' movements, identified their base, and planned a strike. But the goal was not destruction. The goal was to capture the pirate leadership and dismantle the organization without harming the rank-and-file pirates who were often just desperate people who had turned to crime. The operation took 5 days. Hayes's teams infiltrated the pirate base, identified the leaders, and extracted them during a carefully planned raid. The pirate fleet fell apart without leadership. Many pirates surrendered. A few escaped but were no longer a threat. The shipping companies praised the operation. The local security forces were amazed. Once again, human special forces had achieved in days what others could not achieve in months. The Galactic Council reconvened to discuss the 3 demonstrations. Ambassador Chen stood before them again, but this time the atmosphere was different. There was respect in the chamber now and something else: understanding. General Krath of the Drath Confederacy spoke for many when he addressed the council. Honored delegates, I have spent the last week studying human military doctrine. I have reviewed Earth's history, their training methods, their philosophy of warfare. I have come to understand something important.